This is a HeadGum podcast.
Hello and welcome to The Complete Guide to Everything, a podcast about everything. I'm one of your hosts, Tom.
And I'm Tim.
Tim, how are you doing this week?
Tom, I was feeling bad.
Yeah.
And now I'm
feeling
feeling
We're recording
good.
a day late because you're feeling bad.
A day late and a dang dollar short.
Tim,
right?
this show's hundreds of dollars short. Maybe even...
We've been running in the red for years.
I wish we were only $1 short.
Yeah, the creditors are been on our ass.
Yeah.
For nigh on a decade.
But look, we're professionals. You're here. To the listener, nothing's changed.
Right.
The episode's still going. They're listening, saying, "I got this episode at the same time as usual." I set my watch every week to when this show comes out.
Tom, I wanted to talk about that. I don't think you and I have ever
discussed what time
the show is supposed to go out.
I put it out at 7 p.m. Eastern time on Sundays.
Oh, really?
Yeah. What time do you put it out?
Generally around 4:30.
Okay. Well, so there you go. Depending on whose week it is, and
we should take a look at the analytics.
Oh, to tell us what?
You know, what drop works better? What drop time?
Oh, yeah.
Tom,
I doubt it really
If we want to
matters.
get out of all this debt, we're going to have to start digging into the numbers
I
here.
guess that's true. We should start looking at these numbers. For one, I have no idea how many people listen to this show.
No,
so.
I didn't even know that's a thing that you could know.
No, I thought it was like... the old days where you'd send out a signal and you'd have to rely on Mr. Nielsen to tell you how many people were tuning in.
What's the radio one, Arbitron?
Yeah, where you would have to carry around a box and it would just listen like to you all the time.
I got one where when I was a kid, they sent $5 in a little book, in a little diary, and you had to fill out.
Every song you heard?
No, just every station you listened to and when and for how long.
Okay.
And my parents tried to explain to me how that's not worth $5.
Right.
And it was just like I was probably like 8.
Yeah.
So every time we would go into the car,
mm-hmm.
I'd be like, oh wait, I forgot my Arbitron book. So I had to run back inside and diligently
don't turn the radio on.
Yeah, exactly. This will screw up the whole experiment.
I can't hear anything until I've got my book with me.
And then it would just be on the 2-minute drive to school, I listened to Z100.
Yeah. Well, the joke's on your parents because now we're all being tracked all the time and not getting paid a single cent for
Exactly.
it. So $5 right about now, that'd be pretty nice. Was it a one-time payment or was it going to be weekly or monthly or something?
I think they mailed it out. They couldn't have just mailed out $5 bills.
I mean, you
right?
can. It's not a great idea, but you can do it.
I feel like there was no communication before this envelope showed up at my family's house. That was like, congratulations, you've been chosen to be a part of the they framed it like it was not work for that they were asking us to do.
Right.
And it's it seems like if you sent out 1,000 of those a week or whatever, how many of those little books are you going to get back?
I don't know.
That's $5,000 down the toilet.
Yeah. Do you remember? Was it a $5 bill they put in there?
That's my recollection of it. Who knows? And I don't know if it came later. Yeah. Maybe it was dependent on me returning, and maybe my parents floated that for me or something. Maybe that's where the $5 bill came.
Maybe they were offering to pay $5,000 a week, and your parents were just skimming off the top like Macaulay Culkin's parents.
Wow. Yeah.
It could have been one of those situations. Sam, you have no idea.
Macaulay Culkin's parents, or his dad at least.
It was mostly his dad.
A villain. He's a villain.
Yeah. Mm.
But also, Macaulay Culkin seems pretty well off now.
Yeah, now, but I think he had a horrible childhood and had a bunch of legal fights to get that money back.
Oh, okay, yeah.
Yeah, because that's what it was.
I'm not looking to minimize Macaulay Culkin's struggle here.
It wasn't in the end, his dad and him both wound up rich. Yeah. I think it was after years of legal battles, Macaulay Culkin finally got his money back.
You think he got a piece of the Jackson estate?
From Michael?
Yeah.
I don't think so. It sounds like they weren't super close at the end there.
Yeah.
I think Michael mostly just left everything to his family.
Yeah.
But
and that chimp, right?
I don't think he left anything to Bubbles.
Oh.
No. I remember hearing about there being I was going to talk about how I remember hearing about that they would send you a box and it would listen to so if you were in the store, it would hear what you were doing.
Is that true?
I don't know if that's true. I haven't looked into this stuff, but I was going to say, when you were a kid and you would get, did you have grandparents that didn't live local?
Yes.
When you would get,
yes, thanks for asking.
When you would get birthday cards and stuff like that, would they send you a check or cash in there?
They'd send me a check.
See, I had one group that would send checks and the other that they were just like, rolling the dice every time. Like, we're going to send them cash, which I guess ultimately it's like, $20 gets stolen out of the mail. We'll send them another $20. But as a kid, when it was like, oh, I got cash in my hand right now, I don't have to wait to go to the bank.
Agreed.
Uh-huh.
And I had one pair of grandparents local and one not local.
Okay.
So maybe the split, because I would have I got cash in the birthday card that was personally delivered.
Right.
But I don't know if they'd trust those. Actually,
mm-hmm.
I don't know. But the local grandparents.
Yeah.
My grandfather was he worked for the post office when he was working.
Oh wow. So he definitely. Well,
he'd be like, "Oh, I know, the stew down at the at the processing."
He steals all the money out of the birthday cards. Yeah, I was gonna say, do you think that would make him more or less inclined? Would he be less inclined to send cash because he knows how everything works, or would he be like, they see the return address on this, they wouldn't dare?
He struck fear into their hearts.
Yeah.
I liked getting a check, though. It made me feel like a real grown-up.
A real big shot going into the bank.
Yeah. It's like, oh, yeah, I got paperwork to do now.
Yeah, we would have to bring it to school. Remember, we had Chase Kids Banking?
Yeah. You know what?
You think that account's out there somewhere?
I do think, I don't think I ever got that money out of that account.
Thousands of dollars.
Maybe not tens of thousands of dollars, but all my grandparents' birthday money there.
It might be a few $100.
Yeah.
Yeah, you should go to that website with the lost money.
Oh, I go to that website.
Or just go to Chase Bank and be like, I had an account
Chase
here
Bank.
when I was a 7-year-old boy, and I demand a withdrawal.
Going to the bank. When's the last time you've gone into the bank?
It's been a while.
It's difficult to do anything at the bank.
Yeah. Anytime. I used to have to go there. We used to get, speaking of our business running in the red, we used to get foreign checks.
Oh, yeah.
A lot. And I would have to go to the bank to cash those because you couldn't just use the app. And boy, it was like rolling the dice every time who you would get and if they had any idea how to do something like that.
Yeah, it's really weird. Sometimes I'll go to the bank because I'll need to go to the bank and they'll be like, oh, no, you have to call this phone number. It's but you're here in the flesh. We're talking and I have my documents with me. And they're just like, oh, yeah, okay, then go to the website then. It's like, then what are you doing here? Sitting behind that nice thick glass.
Yeah. Oh, you've got a cushy job behind a 6-inch bulletproof glass. Tim, you think a lot of Marvel fans downloaded this episode excited to hear about Thor, and they're like, it's just too boring men talking about going to the bank. Talking about how when they go to the bank can't do anything.
Yeah, complaining about the bank tellers.
Yeah.
I don't know, maybe there's some Norse mythology fans
who are like, this does actually equate to my life. I have trouble at the bank as well, and nobody wants to hear about my Norse mythology when I want to talk about it. But before we get to that, Tim, is street sweeping just an out-and-out scam?
Street sweeping. We're changing topics here.
Yeah. We'll get to the Thor stuff in a minute.
So you're talking about the trucks, the street sweepers, the big ones that go swish, swash, swoosh in the little blue truck book.
Mm-hmm.
and they come around, and in New York City, you have to move your car once a week.
Now twice a week.
So they can sweep the street with this thing. And your contention, your question is, do those trucks actually do anything?
Yeah.
Probably very little.
Because I was
where does it go?
Well, that's the thing.
It's like sweeping things. There's no dustpan on the trucks, is there?
That's what I'm saying, Tim. I was watching it yesterday. I was sitting in my car for an hour and a half so I wouldn't get a ticket. And I'm watching this. I actually went to get gas, and so I was like, I'll be out of the way. And literally as I pulled back into my spot, the street sweeper came. So it's oh, well, you're not going to be able to sweep this part of the street. But I'm watching it. All it's doing is creating a big dust cloud.
Yeah, it's like pig pens rolling through, and then he walks away.
And it's okay, so the dust.
Do they have vacuum suction in there? Yeah. Speaking of going to the bank, right?
Yeah. Wait, what?
The pneumatic tubes. Never mind. I was trying to tie this all together.
I thought you thought there was a place you could sell dirt for a lot of money.
Yeah, these street sweepers are laughing all the way to the bank.
I don't know if it would make sense that there's some kind of vacuum system, but at the same time, it's wouldn't that have to be gigantic? There's so much dust.
And it's just throwing, it's kicking rocks around and stuff too. Yeah. I mean, as with any, big city service or anything in New York City, it's a way to shake down people.
To give tickets to people that don't move their cars.
Exactly.
And to make people move their cars.
Right. Which I don't think, people complain about that. Tom, we're both car owners. We're bad people being car owners in New York. I think people are oh, I can't believe I have to move my car once a week. Could you imagine if there was no rules where you could just leave a car in a parking spot for free indefinitely?
Yeah,
do you know how many abandoned
cars
cars would be there? Yeah.
Yeah, there's already so many abandoned cars. Tim, I refuse to accept that I'm a bad person. I use my car almost exclusively to drive orphans to their new homes.
Really? Is that a thing?
Yeah. So
why don't people who from their new homes just come pick them up?
It's always a surprise.
Oh, you're surprising the parents?
I'm surprising the new parents every time. Yeah.
Wow. I mean, you would think they'd want to prepare to have a child coming to live with them.
Tim, I mean, you just had a child.
Fill out the paperwork,
were you able to
and then
prepare? No. Just one day you had a kid. One day the stork showed up and you had a kid.
Yeah, I know.
It's just like me. I'm the stork for these parents, and yeah, a lot of times they're very surprised, but no backsies. They got, once the kids dropped off, I'm out of there.
You peel out.
I peel out. See you later, suckers. And most of the time I get the right house. Sometimes it's the wrong house. I have to go back, pick the kid up, take him back to the orphanage.
Oh, you don't find the right house?
Well, sometimes it's well, look, this is what it said on
paperwork
on the piece
up.
of paper. Yeah. This family didn't want a kid. Sorry. Back to the orphanage. Tim, this week we're talking about Thor. I was hoping we were going to be doing this yesterday because yesterday was Thor's Day. Thursday.
Oh, we can just say that. Is Thursday named after Thor?
It is, yeah.
All right. Yeah, we usually record on Thursday. I had a tummy ache, so now we're recording on Friday.
Yeah. Mere hours before I'm due to see the new Thor motion picture.
We always seem to do this. We'll do an episode about tied to a new movie
that neither of us
has seen. But by the time this comes out, millions of people will have seen it. So they'll be like, oh, let's catch up on the discourse. I'd love to hear the nuts and bolts. Mm-hmm. And then it's just us either speculating or talking about going to the bank or something.
And on the same side, there are millions of other people who are like, I haven't seen the movie yet. Let me not listen to this episode so I don't spoil it. So no matter which side you fall on, you're bound to be disappointed.
Yeah.
But yeah, we need to get press passes. That's what it is. Or not press passes. We need to get press invites.
I think we just need to be bolder.
How so? Just show up at the theater, demand.
Yeah, exactly.
with a hat that says
yeah,
press.
as long as you have the little card in your fedora.
And I'll have my pocket Constitution open to the First Amendment protecting free speech and freedom of the press and everything.
I think that's all it takes. I don't even think you'll have to get argumentative. I think you'll be like, "Oh, nice hats, fellas. Let me escort you to
come right in." Of course, we've been waiting for the press to show up to this screening. But that would be ideal because then we would be able to talk about it ahead of time, but release it when the actual movies come out.
Well, that's why things work that way.
All right. Well, everybody on Marvel's publicity team who's listening, enough is enough. Get us on this list. We want to see these.
I wouldn't want to have to watch these movies, though.
Tim doesn't want to have to sign paperwork that says he won't talk about the movie ahead of time or whatever.
I mean, it's fine.
Oh yeah, I forgot. You like paperwork. That's why you like getting checks.
I like paperwork, and I don't like talking about Marvel movies. So, that seems like a perfect deal. That seems like just the paperwork I'd like to be embroiled in.
Tim, I'm going. Like I said, going to see this in mere hours. This is the first Marvel movie in a while that I've tried to kind of steer clear of the hearing too much about. Yeah, spoilers and stuff. Because I did that. I mean, I think Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness was a bad movie, no matter how you look at it.
It's a darn shame. I like Sam Raimi.
Yeah, it had cool parts in it, and
I didn't make it through that movie, Tom.
Oh, you started watching it?
I've been trying to watch it. It's been 3 installments, and each time I'm just like, I just want this scene to end.
Yeah,
and then the scene doesn't end.
Yeah,
so I turn it off.
There's some.
I'll end it myself. I say
there's some good Sam Raimi stuff towards the end of it. If you can make it to the end of it, it's not until the third act that some stuff starts happening. I'm like, oh, here we go. This is Sam Raimi. Here's some undead creatures and whatnot, but and weird humor.
Oh, I want more Kevin Costner in For Love of the Game, Sam Raimi.
Oh, I don't think I've seen.
Yeah, nobody's seen it. It's it's a movie about a major league pitcher and his love life.
Oh, Mr. Baseball. Yeah, no, I've seen Mr. Baseball.
I wish it was Mr. Baseball, Tom.
With Tom Selleck?
Yeah, Tom Selleck.
Man, remember how that movie was very controversial when it came out?
I just remember I rented it 3 consecutive weeks from the video store, and I don't remember a thing about it. What was it, racist against Japanese folk?
I think there was some of that, but I remember it being... So the movie was Tom Selleck played kind of a... not washed up, but I guess past his prime baseball player.
Yeah. Who
then goes to play baseball in Japan and is Mr. Baseball. He's a big baseball player. But
it's also a fish out of water situation.
Yeah. And I think that was right as at least Americans found out that baseball was big in Japan.
Right.
I don't think we really knew. I think it was somewhat recently big, maybe in the 70s it started. And this was the early 90s.
I want to say that movie was 93.
Yeah, something like that. But I remember there being a controversy because Mr. Baseball himself sleeps with a woman, a Japanese woman. And that was very controversial in Japan because it was a woman he had, just met or whatever. And they were like, this makes Japanese women look easy.
Right.
And they were upset about that. But I think, Americans watched this movie and were like, oh, that's what happens in every movie.
And also it's Tom Selleck.
Yeah. I don't think there was a graphic sex scene or anything. It was just yeah.
It was tasteful.
Yeah. I mean, say nothing else. Mr. Baseball is a very tasteful movie.
I don't know what the tagline was.
What?
He's the biggest thing to hit Japan since...
Godzilla?
Nice. Yeah.
I wonder if they had to license the name Godzilla for that or if it's fair use. Mm-hmm. But anyway, Tim, we're not talking about Mr. Baseball. We're talking about Thor, the new movie, Thor, Love and Thunder. No, we're not even really talking about the movie. We're talking about the character.
We're talking about the Norse god.
The horse god, Thor.
Okay, this is what I never understood.
Okay.
So you got in the Marvel coterie.
Finally, I'll be able to use that Norse mythology degree that I got in college.
I wouldn't be surprised if you had that and forgot everything.
No, that would be so much more useful than what I actually graduated with.
So you got this, the Avengers.
Yeah.
And you've got Iron Man.
Yeah.
And then you've got the
Incredible Hulk.
The Incredible Hulk, Captain America.
Uh-huh.
These are all what I understand to be comic book heroes from yesteryear.
Original creations.
Right. And then it's just like, oh, and Thor, which is this guy that I heard about, like, in Jeopardy clues and stuff, not about comic books.
Uh-huh.
And I still don't understand about, like, Norse gods and Greek gods and Roman gods. Whenever I read about that stuff, this is why I could never go on Jeopardy. My eyes just glaze. Like, it's the worst. It's so boring. And it's just like, did they actually believe this stuff, or were these just stories? And
and hasn't Jeopardy conditioned you to believe, like, that you have like a huge gap in your education because of how many questions there are about Greek and Roman and Norse mythology?
Yeah, exactly. And it's just like, there's equivalent ones in Greek and Roman, and they're different guys. And it's like,
and so many people on Jeopardy answer the questions like, of course, everybody knows.
It's like,
Greek
was this
god of fertility is?
Yeah, was this like in third grade, like a unit that my class missed or something?
Well, I can tell you this. This is what I know about the Norse.
Oh, yeah. So,
okay.
Yeah. So these were gods.
Yeah.
People believed that these were gods, or were these just stories?
They believed they were gods a long time ago.
Okay.
Like, it's one of those, apparently, the Thor goes back to the 7th century. The Germanic peoples,
right?
Which is like, European, Scandinavian. They believed in Thor as the god of thunder,
right?
To the point where they believed thunder was the sound of his chariot.
Not his hammer?
No. Because if you think about it, like, a hammer's not going to make any noise in the sky.
Right.
If you've got like a rickety old chariot being pulled by 2 goats.
Yeah. Goats,
flying through the sky, then it's gonna make some noise. Now, whether that's gonna sound like thunder, come on, I don't know about that.
I mean, a very big chariot, though. Was he like giant? Do we think, or did they think?
Yeah, I don't know.
He wasn't like the size of a regular guy. Was it like, this is a guy like me?
Again, it's unclear how big they thought he actually was.
I bet it's not unclear, but we don't know.
No, because it's one of those things, like, because I mean, again, I'm sure we're going to get a letter from somebody that telling us we're idiots, but that happens every week.
If you're going to do that, at least include a $5 bill in it.
Yeah, that way we'll open it. And a little booklet for us to fill out every time we have stupid thoughts.
That's too much work. That is really not worth our...
Yeah, that would be a lot of work. But from what I understand, a lot of this is because these stories and tales, I mean, I guess it's the same of any kind of religion where...
Watch it.
Me and you were both raised Catholic.
Right.
But if you look into like a Dan Brown book and you read up about the Catholic Church, it's like, no, at a certain point, the Catholic Church was like, all right, everybody's got to get their story straight about Jesus. So here it is. He wasn't born in the summer anymore. He was born on December 25th.
Now you're using Dan Brown as...
No, I'm using it as like a joke reference.
Oh, okay, sorry.
But I'm saying,
sorry
like,
that I had to make you clarify that a joke you made was a joke.
Well, it's a joke, but it's also like, I can't think of... I haven't read any... I mean, I haven't read a Dan Brown book, but I haven't read any, like, serious books. But I know that...
Were those books condemned by the Catholic Church?
I think so,
Did they
I think they were mad about them.
Press release that said Dan Brown, more like damned Brown, because he's going to be damned to hell for all eternity for these blasphemous things he said.
I don't know if they've got, like, people writing press releases that are that clever with
it's pretty, I mean, as clever as I, Tom, yeah, unlikely.
In Vatican City, they're like, I don't know if this would translate, but what do you say? Damn the brown.
This is a good one.
But the Catholic Church basically, took all these different ideas and all these different stories, and we're rewriting the Bible. There's going to be a King James Bible. That's going to be the official one now. Forget what you heard. This is the story. And I don't think that necessarily happened with Norse mythology.
Right.
So there's a lot
Do you think everybody just lost interest and they're like, this is too much to keep track of?
No, I think it was kind of like a game of telephone.
Right.
Especially it spread to different countries. And, somebody was like, well, I heard Thor, has a big hammer. And somebody's like, no, I heard it's like a regular size hammer.
It's like a, one that I got in my toolbox.
It's like a regular hammer.
It's
like
a ball peen.
Yeah. And they said, we'll agree to disagree.
Right.
But there are some overarching ideas that, there's still like prevalent characteristics of this character. But it does make me wonder if like in 2,000 years, there's going to be some equivalent of a Marvel MCU movie. And when all the characters seem like they've been beaten, there's like a huge explosion and Jesus Christ teleports in.
Exactly. And Jesus will
and
be
he's
like this
wielding a
huge
cross.
Hunk. Yeah.
That's his weapon. He's got like the cosmic cross.
I mean, the cross is kind of like his kryptonite though, right? It's the one thing that...
Yeah, but the one thing... there was only one thing that could defeat Jesus: crucifying him. Otherwise, he was impenetrable.
Yeah,
he got shot
so many times.
The bullet just bounced right off.
Pontius Pilate was just like bang, bang, bang. This guy,
he had a Tommy
goes
gun.
right through him.
And then he picked up a glass of water and said, how about a little wine? And threw it and stained his tunic. And boy, was he mad. But it does make you think like, at one point, all these characters were taken extremely seriously.
Right.
And revered as gods.
Now made into a joke by the Walt Disney Corporation.
Yeah. So who knows
respect for anybody.
What the Walt Disney Company will be up to 2,000 years from now.
Is the Catholic Church upset with the scene in Doctor Strange and the Multiverse of Madness where Doctor Strange turns water into wine a la Jesus Christ?
Oh, yeah, there is a scene where that happens.
Yeah, he does it at a wedding.
Yeah. I mean, it's Jesus did at a wedding too, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What are they trying to say here?
I don't know.
We should be worshiping Benedict Cumberbatch instead of Jesus Christ?
And also, when Doctor Strange does it at the wedding, it's like, buddy, there's wine. Like, we're not out of Jesus did because they ran out of wine or they didn't have any wine in the first place, I think. Something like that.
That lady came up, his ex-girlfriend or whatever, is her wedding.
Yeah.
Which is...
I thought you were talking about Jesus still.
No. This is
I was like, I don't think Jesus had
This is the
ex-girlfriends.
Doctor Strange movie.
Uh-huh.
And this took me out of it.
Okay.
She's the bride.
Yeah.
She comes up to the bar and says, like, glass of red. At what wedding is the bride going up to the bar and getting her own dang drinks?
I don't know. I mean, that whole wedding seemed like a strange, no pun intended. But that whole wedding, I'm wondering, like, how come everybody's not looking at, like, oh, there's a guy here who's an actual fucking wizard and he helps save the world.
Well,
but like everybody's like, no, leave him be.
I think that's the problem with these movies. I think this will contribute to the Marvel fatigue.
Yeah,
where it's like they're bringing in like
to figure out kind of what.
Yeah, they're bringing in new superheroes now. It's like all these contracts are lapsing and stuff, and it's just like, all right, they're going to introduce a new person, but like what the citizens of Earth have seen, like nobody's going to be impressed with like another one, right?
Yeah, I mean, I guess there is like a weird, but I mean, they're new celebrities all the time, and we're impressed by them. Tim, you're telling me you're not impressed by the new celebrities?
I don't understand the new celebrities, Tom.
So you think maybe there are people in the MCU universe or MC universe that are just like, I don't understand these new heroes.
Think so. I think
there's
they're
a
just
new Captain America. What? what happened to the old Captain America? Is he back in the ice? I don't understand.
Yeah. And then it's I don't think they even go that far. I think they're just like, it's too much. As long as there's a Captain America, I guess I'm okay with that.
Yeah. And I'll tell you another thing. I'm moving out of New York City. Every few years, this place gets fucking annihilated by some aliens from space or monsters from another dimension. Just not worth it anymore. I'm moving to the country. Tim, you asked about Thor, and I didn't tell you about Thor and like what's the same and what's different with the Marvel version. So the differences are in Norse mythology, Thor is a redhead, and he's got a big red beard as well.
Really?
Now the Marvel Thor has had a beard now for a few movies too.
Chris Hemsworth.
Chris Hemsworth. So he's had a beard. So it's kind of just like a difference in hair color at this point.
Is there anybody who's still like, the Catholic Church is all about like Jesus, right? Are there any
I didn't expect you to bring the Catholic Church into this episode about Thor so much.
Are there any people who are like, no, I still worship the Norse gods?
Yeah, I'm sure there are.
This is offensive to me. Yeah.
Probably. I'm sure like in somewhere in Scandinavia there's like
Chris Hemsworth can't step foot in some like village in Norway or something.
Maybe some, but I'm sure there are like little protests of like, this isn't Thor,
right.
This is Thor. But I don't know. Like at this point, people might.
That happened with the Australians. When Crocodile Dundee came out and they were comparing what was a knife and what wasn't a knife.
So the Crocodile Dundee fans were like, no, come on, that's a knife.
Yeah, pretty much. Like, we recognize
They're
both of these.
Yeah,
come on.
Fine. We're not like that. This is hurtful to our entire country. I'm sure I'm sure there are some people that feel that way, but I imagine also by this point, there's probably a decent amount of people, probably like Norse mythology enthusiasts that are like, oh, more people are into this now.
Right.
That's kind of cool. Like people at least know the names, more names in common. It's not just nerds on Jeopardy that know it anymore.
Right. Actually, Jeopardy contestants are cool now, Tom, but point taken.
I've seen...
They're the new glitterati.
That's 100% not true. There are people on Jeopardy now that have confidence, but that's different than
Are you telling
cool.
me that Matt Amodio is not the new Brad Pitt?
I don't know who that is, Tim. That might as well be, one of the new Marvel characters as far as I'm concerned. So Thor's got red hair. I told you he's got goats that pull his chariot. Mm-hmm. Apparently that's in the new movie. They like incorporated that. He's got 2 goats in it.
Nice.
But one cool thing about these goats, Tim, is that if he gets really hungry, he can eat the goats and then he can bring them back to life the next day.
Ooh.
Yeah. So that's pretty. Yeah,
I mean, if you're going to make somebody, just like let them make food appear out of thin air or something.
Yeah, I mean,
if I had to design like a god or a messiah or something, I'd just make him like, I'd cut out all the bullshit. You don't need water to get to wine. You just get a glass of wine if you want it.
I mean, didn't Jesus do that with fish? Like there was an empty barrel and then he filled it with fish.
I think he needed to start with one fish.
Yeah, and then he was able to multiply.
He had to replicate it. Yeah.
I mean, that's the thing, Tim. You need some kind of rules to the powers. Yeah, otherwise, you're too OP, and then.
Well, that's the thing. When you're a god. Mm-hmm. When you're like creator, like God, as we know him, Tom, made the universe out of nothing.
Yeah,
he was just like light. They weren't like, oh, he needed to charge up his batteries before he said, let there be light.
But I think that's why Christianity leans so far into Jesus stuff, because people are like, okay, so God's just like this big guy, but we can't see him, but he's everywhere and he can do anything.
Yeah, we need a guy that you can take down with a cross once in a while.
Yeah, we need a guy you can grab a beer with. And even better, if he can make that beer out of water.
Yeah.
Just sitting next to you. So yeah, the goats we talked about. Thor, he's got the hammer in the books. In the mythology, it's called Mjolnir. In the comics, Mjolnir. Yeah. It's like Mjolnir, I think.
Yeah.
But he's also got a magic belt called Mingingoro.
This is the god, not
this
the superhero.
Both.
Oh, okay.
Not really. There's like a throwaway joke in a Marvel movie about Thor having a magic belt, but like
a utility belt. Do they call it that?
No, there's like a joke where I think it's actually Jon Favreau in like a Spider-Man movie. He's like going over like a list of things they're moving out of Avengers Tower, and he can't pronounce it, and he's like Thor's magic belt. But a difference.
The way only a befuddled Favreau can do
it. I'm not sure if this is in the comics. If it is, it's not a big part. But another difference is that in the mythology, he's also got iron gauntlets, like iron gloves that he wears.
Wow.
And that's what allow him to get Mjolnir to like come back to him. And to like it's
in the movies he just raises his hand.
Yeah, and he can just summon it from anywhere in the universe, I guess, and it will just come back to him. But that it seems like in the mythology he also needs those gloves just to kind of handle it, because it's like such a heavy hammer. But yeah, so it's like not a huge difference, but one of the different, because I was kind of looking at it from a like, so you know these Asylum movies, Asylum Studios, the mockbusters.
Oh yeah, where they do like knockoffs of like cheap
knockoffs of like whatever the new hot movie is going to be. So of course this is right up their alley, because Thor is a character in the public domain.
Right.
So they have a new movie out, a new Thor movie out too. And I like watched the trailer because I was curious. And I was, again, kind of curious. I'm always curious with these things of like what falls in public domain and what doesn't.
Right.
Because like US copyright stuff is so weird that way. I was just reading about this comic related that so there's a long way around it, but the new Superman TV show had apparently a thing called Miracle Monday, like a holiday featured in the show. Okay. And I read this article where they were speculating. They're like, ooh, that might have just been like a very costly mistake they made.
Why is that, Tom?
Because apparently there's a Superman novel called Miracle Monday that establishes this idea of a holiday.
Right.
However, the author was able to negotiate the rights of that book, so he owns the copyright of that book. Now, he doesn't own the characters, but he owns everything else that happened in that book, and DC doesn't. So they might have gotten in trouble with that. The reason why he was able to negotiate that deal where he kept all the rights was this was a movie tie-in with Superman 2. He had done a movie tie-in novel with Superman 1 that did very well. And the reason why they did movie tie-in novels instead of novelizations was because Mario Puzo of the Godfather fame bought the novelization rights to the Superman movies and then didn't do anything with them. Yeah. So, of course, the studios, they were very excited. Like, oh, my God, Mario Puzo wants to write the novelizations? Great. And then he was like, like, I don't want to.
And so he just sat on the rights?
So he just sat on the rights, and they were like, we've got these huge hits.
He was afraid they'd outsell the Godfather.
Yeah,
if anybody.
Probably.
Yeah.
He saw these movies, and he's like, what am I going to, Marone, what am I going to do? These movies are better than The Godfather. So they in a panic were like, we need to have some books on the shelf. We're leaving money on the table otherwise.
What about the comic books?
They had those, but I think they knew the Superman movie is going to have adult appeal too,
right?
And adults might not want to buy comic books, but if they see this at a Walden Books or whatever, they might buy it. So I always find those things very interesting. So I find the Thor thing is like what you can use and what you can't. I
forget what I was listening to. I think it was probably an episode of Blank Check where they're a good podcast.
Please don't mention other podcasts.
Where they were talking about the Wizard of Oz.
Our Patreon podcast.
The Wizard of Oz was based on a book, but the movie added all these visual
stuff.
On purpose. They were like, we're going to add this yellow brick road because then that becomes our intellectual property.
Right. That happens a lot in movies when you see. So I thought about this when the Sonic the Hedgehog movie controversy happened, where they had the ugly Sonic and then they changed it.
Yes, the controversy that everybody will remember.
Apparently, one of the reasons why they do that so often in movies is because of toy rights.
Yeah.
Because
change the character design.
Yeah. So now if they made the ugly Sonic, the movie Sonic, that becomes a hit, regardless of whether it's going to be a hit or not, they're going to have a bunch of merchandise. That merchandise is like the movie studios. They don't have to pay. I'm sure they have to license the name and everything, but they get more royalties. They don't have to give royalties to the character creator or as much, I guess. So that's why they do that very often.
Whew. Who knew?
I knew. That's why.
Yeah, you told me.
Told you
it was
about
pretty
it.
good. It's a good explanation.
Other differences in the movies, in the MCU, and in the comics too. Loki and Thor are brothers,
right?
But Loki is not Thor's brother in the mythology. He's kind of an uncle. He's like,
see, I never understood. And there's so much inbreeding amongst the gods, right?
I
feel like they're like royalty in that way.
Yeah, there is.
Maybe I'm getting the gods mixed up with the royal family.
There is there's a bunch of weird stuff like Zeus made himself into a swan to rape a lady, and that's Hercules. That's Greek, but still. Yeah, there's always weird stuff like that. But apparently Loki is a blood brother of Odin, who's Thor's father.
Right.
But what I didn't realize, what I thought was a Marvel thing, was that in Norse mythology, Loki's also a frost giant.
What's a frost giant?
Just a big ice guy.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah.
That seems like it'd be in mythology.
It's there are frost giants. I think it's kind of the thing of don't go in that mountain. There's frost giants.
Right.
When it's really don't go in that mountain. You'll freeze to death. But they told a bunch of people that they didn't listen. So eventually some elder was actually the reason why we don't want you to go is because there's big ice guys up there. And then a bunch of people were
explaining this sounds a lot like the classic film The Invention of Lying.
Well, Tim, I do love that movie. I thought you were going to say it sounds like Dan Brown.
Ugh.
Maybe I can be the
damned Brown.
I can be the Dan Brown of Norse mythology.
I'm going to be the damn Daniel of Norse mythology.
Tim, ever since Damn Daniel came out, you've been trying to be the new Damn Daniel.
It's gonna work.
You're wearing white shoes right now.
I know. He's a good role model. That's what I'm saying.
He's a good role model. Thor is in Norse mythology is also the god of tides and weather, and I don't know if he's the god of oak trees, but he has a lot to do with trees too.
That's cool.
Yeah,
not in the movie though, huh? On the comics.
No, in the movie, I guess weather, it's lightning and thunder are weather, and he can summon that.
Yeah, that's cool.
So I guess if you can summon that, if you could also make it go away, then you're 90% of the way there with controlling all weather.
Yeah.
You can make it cloudy, you can make it sunny. He can't make it snow in the movies. I mean, I haven't seen the new movie.
Yeah, maybe
I'm spoiling
this is where
things.
we're at a disadvantage here. How do you feel about this with the movies, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
I think people take issue. Comics fans are taking issue with the movies now.
Uh-huh.
Where it's like, hey, Thor isn't supposed to be as jokey as he's become. He's become just like a wry one-liner machine.
Yeah.
And a goofball. A freaking goofball.
So that's another thing that I was surprised is actually like fairly accurate to Norse mythology. That he's a fun-loving drunk idiot. One of the differences, and they kind of allude to this actually in the movies, that like this happened a lot in the past, that like Loki has to get out of binds all the time.
Loki does.
Yeah. So like that basically Thor's like the drunk guy at the bar picking fights. And Loki's so like, hey, all right, everybody. But then he uses like magic and stuff. And he's like,
it's like when me and you go out to the bar.
Yeah, and you use some sleight of hand to get me out of
You've
tight
taken
jams.
a swing at somebody. Ogling their girlfriend.
Well, Tim, do some sleight of hand. When he turns around, I'm going to punch him in the back of the head.
It's a good double T-Mac we got.
So I think that that's fine. I mean, I like that they changed Thor because like the first Thor movie was very weird in retrospect.
Bad.
Not
I watched
totally
it, Tom.
bad.
It was bad.
The second one's bad.
Yeah. In the same way that the first one's bad.
Yeah,
boring.
But the first one has some humor in it.
Right.
Like it has some fish out of water humor, like when he first comes to
like
Earth.
Mr. Baseball style.
Like a Mr. Baseball style. The Thor
Rump.
movies are kind of like an alternate universe of what if they kept making Mr. Baseball movies.
Man, the MBU would be awesome.
I mean, they could do a new Mr. Baseball. You have Tom Selleck. He's the new commissioner of the Japanese Baseball League. Or he's a coach. He's a manager.
Yeah.
And then you get some new hot star.
Chris Hemsworth, maybe.
Chris Hemsworth. He comes over. He's the new, maybe he got canceled for some tweet. And he needs to, he gets thrown out of Major League Baseball. He's got to go to Japan.
Beds some lady on the first night.
Well, I mean, maybe the Japanese wouldn't have as much of a problem with that because they'd be like, oh, well, yeah, I mean, look at him.
They weren't saying that about freaking Tom Selleck, Tom?
I don't know how they feel about mustaches over there.
Oh, that's true.
Now, in the new Mr. Baseball, would Chris Hemsworth have a mustache?
I think he would. I think they would want. There might be like a nod to it, and when he's in America, they're just like, "Oh, go to Japan," and then his manager would be like, "And by the way, you might want to lose the mustache."
Yeah,
and then
they kind of did that. I haven't seen it, but that Uncharted movie, it seems like there was some dumb joke about that because they had Mark Wahlberg playing a character with a mustache. And it's like, I guess one scene he has a mustache and somebody's like, that mustache doesn't work. So then Sony can be like, look, we put it in. You can't be mad. But I like the more jokey tone just because.
I mean, I do because those movies are boring. But from what I hear, that's not true to the character in the comic books.
Yeah.
I'll note that I've never even seen like the cover of a Thor comic book.
I read a little bit of, I forget what the name of the arc is, but the arc that this movie apparently pulls from a lot with like Gore the God Butcherer, and he wasn't too jokey in it, but he was like a little jokey. I do think, like, I am worried about this movie that Taika Waititi, who I like his work a lot, that he might be getting like kind of a little too full of himself. And
I mean, this is speculation,
but that like he has success with improvisation. I'm worried he's going to go the what's the guy that did the Ghostbusters, the Lady Ghostbusters movie, Paul Feig.
Yeah, like
the Paul Feig route of like, well, why do I need any script at all? Let's just improv the whole thing.
Right.
And like Paul Feig started doing that, and it's like, now it's like two, where it's like, oh, we're just gonna have a 5-minute scene of two people improving like insults at each other, and this is boring.
Yeah.
Like improvisation's great to invite that in the process or whatever, but like and like Chris Hemsworth, I think is like a naturally funny guy, but
he's handsome, that's for sure. How old is he?
I think he's around 40, I'd imagine. But I don't know if I feel like he's a good improviser in that he could like come to a director and be like, hey, I was thinking my character could say something like this, and it'd be like, okay, do that, but not necessarily the Curb Your Enthusiasm of like, we're just gonna run the camera.
Do you think that's how they do it? They can't do that for Marvel movies.
Sure they can. Why not?
Because there's all this CG.
Yeah, I think that's exactly why they can, because it's like, look, a team of 1,000 people are working 20 hours a day, making 90% of this movie.
Do whatever you want.
You guys can just make sure you're wearing these pajamas with the tracking dots,
right?
And you can be saying whatever you want. It doesn't really matter. We're just going to graft all this on afterwards.
So you're seeing this film opening night?
Yes. No, I think it technically opened last night.
Right.
Because I already had to avoid like videos on YouTube that were like, what the ending of Thor means.
Do you think this is conducive, like fandom, Tom?
Mm-hmm.
I think the MCU is kind of built on it, right?
Yeah.
Fan service and, making people feel smart for recognizing things that they like, right? Do you think it's becoming an albatross, though? Do you think fandom is now trying to become too prescriptive and dictate what they need to see? And if they don't see what they want to see, they'll turn on you real quick?
I do think so with the Marvel stuff, because it seems like no matter what, like everything new that comes out, people are either mad. I think it's just that it's so popular that no matter what you do, you're going to have a large group of people that are unhappy. So there are people simultaneously, it seems, with everything, they're unhappy if it's too connected to everything else, where it's like, well, if I haven't seen every other thing, Doctor Strange, perfect example, where it's like, if I haven't seen WandaVision, this movie makes no sense.
Right.
But then other people, they put out Moon Knight, and that really had like no connections to anything, and that was other people's complaint. Like, this isn't really an MCU thing. It's not connected to anything.
Should people just not? Should nobody? Are we giving too much attention to normal people's crappy opinions?
I mean, we probably are. I don't think Disney is. I think Disney's like finding how to thread the needle and make as much money as possible.
Yeah. Well,
and I think they probably kind of go back.
At the end of the day, we're all rooting for Disney to make money, right?
They're the scrappy underdog that you can't help but love.
You think Mickey Mouse is going to go to the public domain?
It's supposed to happen next year, 2 years from now. But it's like Steamboat Willie Mickey Mouse.
Yeah.
I hope
best Mickey Mouse, in my opinion.
I hope so, Tim. Then we can finally get our Mickey Mouse versus Thor project off the ground.
Boy.
Who will win? No matter who wins, we all lose.
No, in that case, we all win.
No, it'd be an earth-shattering. Tim, there's going to be destruction everywhere. You don't know the kind of powers Mickey Mouse has.
I don't know. I don't know what kind of character Mickey Mouse is. He's just a guy that goes
Fantasia,
like,
hey! And he was the Sorcerer's Apprentice, and that was a long time ago. So by now, he's not an apprentice
He's probably
anymore.
a sorcerer,
You could take on Doctor Strange himself.
Or did the sorcerer like killed him at the end of that?
I think so.
Right? He's like, why'd you make all these brooms?
Yeah, he beat him to death with
with
a
one of the
living
brooms.
broom. Yeah. Sick, real sick ending. I'm glad that's not going in the public domain.
What else you got to say about Thor?
I think that's it. You want to solve a problem?
Yeah, sure. Hello and welcome to Tim and Tom Solve Your Problems. I'm Tim.
I'm Tom.
And we're going to solve your problems. If you have a problem you'd like us to solve, email us at thecompleteguidetoeverything@gmail.com. Tom?
Yeah.
Pick a name. This person would like to remain anonymous.
Terrence.
Hi, Tim and Tom. I have a coworker that is very bad at his job.
Okay. Yeah, I know what that's like.
Well, because you're bad at your job?
No, Tim, I'm not my own coworker.
You don't even have coworkers.
You.
Oh, me?
Yeah, that's the joke.
Oh, well, that's a mean joke. He's been, I have a coworker who's very...
I've written into hundreds of other podcasts about it.
Terrence says, I have a coworker who's very bad at his job. He's been around for nearly a year and just hasn't caught on.
Okay.
Which is fine. Not everyone is good at every job, but it's been truly frustrating.
But this is his job.
It has been truly frustrating to try to work with him, and it honestly doesn't feel like he's even really trying that hard. I think that's a big problem. He quit today.
Oh, great. Problem solved.
Which honestly saved him from getting fired in a couple weeks, and he asked me to write him a letter of recommendation. However, I've really had no good interactions with him regarding his work. How can I write a letter of recommendation when I truly wouldn't recommend him? I do want to be able to help if I can. Thanks, Terrence.
So he wouldn't recommend this guy, but he would like to help him.
I think so. I think, as with anything, you never want anybody to be unemployed.
Yeah,
you want everybody, if they want and need to be gainfully employed.
Yeah.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And not everyone is good at every job, but this goof might be good at another job.
Yeah, it's kind of tough not knowing what he was bad at, and if it's
work, Tom, his job.
But if he would be bad at a different job,
right?
If it's he's not good at this job because you need to be able to lift 50 pounds and he can't do that,
right?
But if there was a job where you only had to be able to lift 10 pounds, he'd be great at that.
Terrence does write.
Is he just written it again?
No. I've really had no good interactions with him regarding his work.
Okay.
Maybe this guy's like a ray of dang sunshine and knows a lot about, or is friendly or something.
Yeah.
You can accentuate those
I was going to say,
right?
You can write somebody a letter of recommendation, I think, where you just talk about the things that you do like in this person. And I think you can, probably pretty successfully avoid, mentioning his work. If you're just hey, this guy... What a great guy. He's a nice guy. I think
that does more damage, though.
But
that's the thing.
That's not up to this guy.
This person, Terrence, should just be oh, yeah, I'll write that for you.
Yeah.
And then, stop answering his emails.
See, I'm saying he should say, I'll write that for you, and then write an honest letter. Don't take too much time on it.
Right.
And then kind of make it up to that guy, hey, this letter doesn't actually say you're good at this type of job. And maybe a smart hiring manager will read between the lines and see that, but it's up to this guy whether or not he wants to use this letter.
Also, a letter of does this guy already have a job lined up?
I mean, sometimes people ask for letters of recommendation before, during the hiring process, so that then they can offer that. I'm trying to I can't think of any time I've ever had to write a letter of recommendation for somebody where I haven't phoned it in, where I haven't just been this person would be an asset to your company. Or where I've ever been called out on it.
Yeah. I can't remember ever writing a letter of recommendation for somebody where I haven't Googled letter of recommendation and just changed a couple words. Yeah.
Yeah, because
just do that. Who cares? Who cares about his next employer?
Yeah, I mean, I was gonna say the big question here is if Terrence has a reputation he needs to watch. But if that's not really that big of a deal for you, and honestly, I don't know if unless you're really going to bat for somebody if anyone really puts too much weight in a letter of recommendation, one way or another.
Yeah.
That if you gave this guy a half decent letter of recommendation and then he goes to this next job and he sucks. I mean, it sounds like he's also probably going to like suck for a year before he's eventually fired or quits. I doubt that then they're going to be like, let's go back and see who wrote that letter of recommendation and make sure we never hire them either.
Yeah. Just do the bare minimum. That's my advice for everything.
Yeah, that's the best way to live life. Just do the bare minimum and avoid any potential of like a conflict or a confrontation.
Yeah, don't take a stand either way, really.
Don't say to this guy, like, you know what, honestly, I don't know if I could recommend your work. I wasn't that impressed by it. Just, who knows? This guy might turn around and stab you with a screwdriver or something.
Yeah, exactly.
So write the bare minimum to make sure you don't get stabbed by a nutcase and then move on with your life.
Yeah, it's fine.
If you have a problem you'd like us to solve, you can email us at thecompleteguide@gmail.com. If you like the show, check out our Patreon, patreon.com/completeguide to get episodes of Books the Podcast. We just finished up 2001, but this week it's Tim and Tom. What is this called? Tim and Tom's Silly Streams, maybe? Because we didn't go to the movies.
Stream Dreamers?
Stream Dreams.
Stream Dreams.
With Tim and Tom.
Yeah, sure.
We watched Man vs. Bee starring Mr. Beans himself, Rowan Atkinson.
You can
listen to that and much more. Patreon.com/complete guide. Go to tcgte.com for a bunch of other stuff, our social links. You can follow me on Twitter and Instagram at Tom Reynolds.
Follow me at Your Pal Tim.
Hey, go to tcgte.com if you live in London. We've just announced we're coming back to the London Podcast Festival.
Oh, yeah.
And you can buy tickets there. September.
Listen to the
middle
promo.
of September. Yeah. Tickets at tcgt.com/live. So check that out. And we're going to have live stream tickets up there soon, I think. So if you're not in London, you'll still be able to watch these shows. 2 nights.
September 16th and 17th.
Look at that. Mark it in your calendar. Even better, go buy
diary,
a ticket.
they say over there.
Mark it in your schedule. Yeah, I think that's it. Tim, I'm sure you have a baby. You're not going to see any movies.
No.
But will you watch Thor, Love and Thunder when it comes on Disney+?
I don't think so.
No?
I watched all of the, as you know,
MCU
phase
movies.
1, 2,
2 and
3
Mm-hmm.
through Endgame. Saved for that Incredible Hulk movie.
Mm-hmm.
And I thought those were
the
fine.
Movie, it was just all right. I wouldn't say it's incredible.
But freaking everyone that I've tried to watch since has just been annoying.
Yeah, they really haven't had too many.
I think
good
I'm just
ones
done
since
with
then.
the vibe.
Yeah. I think they might need a little bit of a retooling, a little bit of a shaking out of like, they're just making so much now with the Disney Plus stuff too that I think they're throwing a lot at the wall, and they've maybe got to kind of step back and reevaluate like, all right, how do we actually do this? I'm not even saying necessarily they have to produce less, but I think they've got to figure out a way to make the new things accessible to audiences, but not like required watching.
Yeah, I'm just hoping it'll all fizzle out at some point.
Like the new Ms. Marvel show. I've only watched the first episode, and like apparently it's good, but not doing well.
Right.
And
who cares if it's doing well?
Well, but the thing is, people are saying it's racist. That it's not doing because it's a Muslim hero, and I'm sure, unfortunately, that is part of it. But I think, honestly, a lot of it is like the two things before were Doctor Strange and Moon Knight, and neither were very good.
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people are like me right now of like, I'll wait till the episodes air and I'll read if it's worth sinking another 6 hours or whatever into before I, just blindly start watching it again. And I think that's probably what they're going to what they've been able to do with Disney Plus so far, but what they're going to run into of like, actually MCU fans aren't necessarily going to watch everything if they've been burned like 6 times in a row.
We'll see.
It takes a while, but eventually people are going to get burned and wait to hear if something's worth watching. It's like I wouldn't have watched Moon Knight in retrospect. Like if I had waited and then read about it, I'd have been like, oh, okay, yeah, I gotta skip that one.
Well, a lot of people aren't committed to doing the deep research that you're willing to do.
I know.
Tom.
That's what makes me such an incredible man.
Incredible Hulk.
We'll see you next week.
That was a HeadGum podcast.